Boy, oh boy, does it feel good to have ESPN and NFL expert Rich Eisen jumping onto the Seattle Seahawks bandwagon when it comes to the NFC playoffs. This is Seahawks Today. I am your host, Will Ortner. And Rich Eisen went on the Brock and Salk show over on Seattle Sports, and he basically went on a big monologue about why the Seahawks were the team to beat in the NFC. And the beauty of what Eisen had to say, it wasn't just about how good one side of the ball was for the Seahawks. It wasn't just about how good one player was for the Seattle Seahawks. It was about the entire team. We're going to break down what he was talking about and why Rich Eisen is becoming really, really smart and one of the top people in my NFL Expert Power rankings. Before we do that, make sure that you go and follow me on social media. Here is my Twitter and my Instagram at Will Ortner. For those of you who are already following me, you know I put about a ton of extra content around the Seattle Seahawks on both of those sites. If you follow me, you're going to get really deep knowledge on the Seahawks. Sometimes there's just things that can't make it on the show. We make sure that we get those out to you on my Twitter and on my Instagram. So make sure you hit that follow button. Rich Eisen had this to say when he was talking about the Seattle Seahawks, and I think it was a very important quote, so I have it here for you. To win in the NFL, you have to have the right coach, the right quarterback, and it sure looks like the Seahawks have absolutely that. And I think it is smart of Eisen to kind of go into detail here where you do have to have the right football coach and you have to have the right quarterback for that football coach because you need two people that get the most out of each other. And boy, oh boy, does it feel like Mike Macdonald and Sam Darnold do that. First, I want to go into what Mike Macdonald has done as the head coach here in Seattle. And frankly, it's just win a ton of football games no matter what the opponents throw out in front of him. What's been most impressive to me with Macdonald is most new head coaches really struggle when they're trying to win on the road. Not Macdonald. In fact, Macdonald's been better on the road than at home, although that home record is getting much better. In 2024, all he did was win a 10-7 record. The only team since the expansion to 7 teams in the postseason did not make it into a NFL postseason with 10 wins or more. It's the Seattle Seahawks in that 2024 year. How does he follow that up? Well, Mike Macdonald gets the Seahawks to 14-3. Look at that record, 24-10. Not a math guy. That's pretty damn good. I'll tell you that right now. Mike Macdonald has just come in and completely transformed this team from a team that I thought actually had a fairly decent culture in the Pete Carroll era, although it was clearly starting to fall back. Macdonald has taken that type of culture and expanded upon it, made it his own, and it's a winning culture, I'll tell you that. Next, when we look at Sam Darnold, I understand. I've had my complaints about Sammy D. I know you guys have had your complaints about slinging Sammy D. Shout out to Colin Cowherd for that one. But I'll tell you right now, Darnold has been a pretty darn good quarterback this year. Now, he hasn't been as good as when PFF had him as the halfway point MVP for the NFL season. But look at his stats right now. All Sam Darnold has done is come in and be a good quarterback. He's thrown for over 25 touchdowns on the year, over 4,000 yards. His completion percentage is at a very high rate. He's one of the top NFL quarterbacks in QBR. You take away the interceptions and the fumbles, Sam Darnold has been the perfect quarterback. Now, he's still going to have to find a way to continue to lower those turnovers throughout this year. But man, oh man, Sam Darnold, that's a quarterback that's good enough to win you a title, at least in my opinion. Now, remember all the way back to the beginning of the year when I was first starting to do videos here on the channel. Remember all the different shows I had to do where people and experts were saying the Seahawks were going to be the worst team in the NFC West? Joke is on them. But I want to ask you, why do you think so many experts, so many former players thought that the Seahawks were not going to be very good this year, and then they turned out to be the best team in the NFC, not just the NFC West? Let me know down below in the comment section why you think the haters were really putting their eye towards the Seahawks and what the Seahawks did to really disprove a lot of the haters' theories this year. Eisen then went in to talk about the rushing attack for the Seattle Seahawks, and I think that Rich kind of understands what you are looking for out of both backs because he mentioned both backs. He talked about Zach Charbonnet and his ability to get into the end zone in the low red zone. He talked about Kenneth Walker really exploding at the end of the year, getting more and more big runs for the Seahawks. more and more explosive runs. He talked about how as the year went on, it became clear that Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet were getting better and better. It feels like Rich Eisen has watched every single game for the Seahawks without really telling everybody how deep of a knowledge base that he has created for them. And I feel like at this point, he's not wrong. He also talks about how well the offensive line has been playing and how the offensive line has helped push this Seahawks team into a position where they can run the ball consistently. That's something that you don't see a lot of experts really dive into. You don't see a lot of those NFL guys really say, hey, man, here's what's going on in the offensive line play. But Eisen did that, and that's why I trust his opinion, because he's not just looking at the skill players. He's looking at the offensive line as well and understanding what makes them so good and why this offensive line is continuing to take strides forward. We're going to dive into what else Eisen had to say on some of the skill players on the offensive side of the football, as well as talk a little bit about what he said with the defensive side of the football. But I do need to let you know about the sponsor of today's video, and that is our good friends over at Rocket Money. I have a big trip planned for the summer this year, and I need to start budgeting for it. I turn to my friends over at Rocket Money to help set those budgets up and help find some extra money that I could use for those trips. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. Rocket Money helped me track my subscriptions. Guess what? We found I was double paying for a couple of streaming services. Rocket Money helped me cancel those extra streaming service payments that I frankly just didn't need to have, helping me save a little bit of money and start a budget for that trip that I'm going to take. Going to go back home to the great state of Washington. Now Rocket Money is helping me budget for my vacations this summer. They're helping me set some spending goals for each month, just a little bit under, so that I can save money and continue to fill up that budget for the travel plans. Now I'm not just racing at the end of the year to hopefully have enough in the budget for those trips. Thank you so much to Rocket Money for that. Let Rocket Money help you reach your financial goals faster. Join at rocketmoney.com/SeahawksChat. That's rocketmoney.com/SeahawksChat. rocketmoney.com/SeahawksChat. Shout out to Rocket Money. Been a big help in the Ortner household. Now, back to Rich Eisen and what he's talking about when it comes to the Seahawks. He talked about Jaxon Smith-Njigba next and how JSN went from someone that a lot of people, himself kind of included, doubted as being a true number one wide receiver. Remember, he talked about DK Metcalf and how people viewed DK as the Batman. JSN was going to be the Robin, and you can't have Robin become Batman if you ship Batman off. Well, guess what? Seattle shipped Batman off, and you found out that you actually had Superman in Jaxon Smith-Njigba. He was the number one wide receiver in yards this season. His average slightly came down as more and more teams kind of set up a better game plan to really slow him down. But I'll tell you this right now, JSN was the best wide receiver in the National Football League. And frankly, in my eyes, he should be. He should be the Offensive Player of the Year. And if he isn't the Offensive Player of the Year, then that's just negligence on the National Football League. I don't want to hear this Bijan Robinson had however many yards from scrimmage. Bijan Robinson's team sucks. They just do. I wanted to pause there for emphasis. Puka Nacua, he's not the Offensive Player of the Year. He didn't equal what JSN did. JSN should be the Offensive Player of the Year, and Rich Eisen really highlighted on that. The last thing that Eisen talked about was this defense. And he shouted out a couple of players, but for the most part, he just talked about how well of a unit that this defense is and how well they have been playing together. They've been very impressive, and that's why they're number one in the National Football League in most statistics. Now, one player that you need to look at that Eisen really made sure to give a spotlight to was DeMarcus Lawrence. DeMarcus Lawrence went from a player that they were talking about him in Dallas as, hey, it's probably over. 1 or 2 more years and then your career's done. And what has DeMarcus Lawrence done? Well, he's revitalized his career. He's one of the top guys on your team in sacks. He creates havoc, causes a bunch of turnovers, has a interception, and, he has a fumble recovery that he ran back into the end zone. Then he got another fumble recovery that he ran back into the end zone. He's forced interceptions as he's been hitting quarterbacks while they are trying to throw. It's just been one of the more impressive revitalizations of a career from a player that the only reason he needed revitalization is because he was a bit older. It's one of the best free agent signings that the Seahawks have had in their franchise, in my opinion, especially if he continues to push the Seahawks forward. When you look at the key defensive stats for the Seahawks, you are top 5. We are top 5 in yards allowed. Top 15 in pass yards allowed. Well, the reason that the Seahawks are top 15 and not higher is because every team's trying to throw in the Seahawks because the Seahawks are up by so much in every freaking game. Rush yards allowed, top 5. Total points, top 5. Top 5 in basically every major statistical category, and that's not just because of one player. As much as DeMarcus Lawrence got a shout-out from Rich Eisen, Leonard Williams deserved one. Byron Murphy deserved one. Ernest Jones deserved one. Devin Witherspoon, Nick Eamon-Warrior. Nick Eamon-Warrior is going to be the defensive rookie of the year, and he's been absolutely fantastic since he's really gotten to grow into his role here with the Seahawks. That's how good this defense is. When you looked at Eisen's final NFL rankings, he had the Seahawks all the way at number 1, which is where they deserve to be. They're the best team in the National Football League. And Eisen joked that, hey, it's not a great power ranking because he's the one who made it. Well, that dude's been watching NFL football and been covering it and been deep in the weeds for, I don't know, 2 decades, 3 decades, 4 decades? He's been around the block quite a while, and he's got a lot of people in NFL circles that he's able to reach out to. He's able to talk to. So if he's creating an opinion, this is not an opinion that he just kind of sat back, ate some Doritos, and was like, oh, yeah, I think the Seahawks are really good. This is a guy who talks to people in the know who are giving him information that he uses to create what he thinks about this team. In Rich Eisen's eyes, the Seahawks are the team to beat in the NFC. And to that, I say, welcome aboard. Come on in to the bandwagon. Join up. The Seahawks have a good enough quarterback to get this team to a Super Bowl and to win the Super Bowl. What he brought up, and I think it was a very important point, he said that Warren Sapp once told Eisen that defenses don't win championships. They give you the opportunity to win championships. And while I disagree with that, I would say that having the best defense in the National Football League definitely gives the offense the opportunity to not mess it up, right? We saw what happens against San Francisco. That defense played lights out. As long as Sam Darnold didn't turn the football over, we were going to win that game. We were going to win that game, no problem. It was not a clean game offensively by any means. And at no point did I ever feel like San Francisco was going to come in and win that game. That's how good this defense is. And if the offense plays the way they have been, we are going to have a really good time in February. I still got to knock on wood for that one. Keep my fingers crossed. But I'll tell you right now, Rich Eisen joining the bandwagon makes me feel pretty damn good. Let me know down below in the comment section, do you think the Seahawks are the team to beat? Yes or no? Are you agreeing with Rich Eisen? Or are you taking loony pills? Because I'll tell you right now, if you're saying that the Seahawks aren't the team to beat, I don't know what film you're watching. Make sure to give me that follow on social media, by the way. Instagram, growing at a rapid pace. We've actually doubled the following numbers since I took over here as the host of Seahawks Today. It's the few and the mighty. It's the followers of WIll Ortner on Instagram. But you know what they get? They get extra Seahawks content every single day. So make sure you hit that follow button. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I'll see you guys next time.